Do you think that just like all of the 100,000 people that people claim are there are all being charged? No. If you didn't assault the police, if you didn't, orchestrate the whole plan, guess what? You're probably fine. You're probably fine. Hey, guess what? Shouldn't have conspired to overthrow the government, Proud Boys. There's an easy way to avoid jail time in this situation, and it is to, guess what? Not try to overthrow the government.
House Republicans, led by Speaker Mike Johnson of Louisiana, have made over 40,000 hours of footage from January 6th public. Now, bits of the footage have been released online starting today. Anyone can set up an in-person appointment to view the footage in designated rooms within the Capitol. Johnson said that truth and transparency are critical in determining what really happened on January 6th, and that this decision will provide millions of Americans, criminal defendants, public interest organizations, and the media an ability to see for themselves what happened that day, rather than having to rely upon the interpretations of a small group of government officials. Republicans were quick to praise Johnson's decision, some calling for further investigation into what really happened. Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene took to X and posted, "I'm calling on Speaker Johnson to create a January 6th select committee. Releasing the tapes is not enough. There needs to be investigations and accountability for all of the lies, deceit, and lives ruined. Every member of the January 6th committee, Nancy Pelosi, the FBI, the DOJ, DC Police, Capitol Police, January 6th witnesses who lied, all need to be subpoenaed. Criminal referrals must be written, and prosecutions must happen under a Trump DOJ. I've said it all along. MAGA did not do this, and former President Trump weighed in as well, writing on Truth Social. Congratulations to Speaker of the House Mike Johnson for having the courage and fortitude to release all of the January 6 tapes, which will explicitly reveal what really happened on January 6th.
But some congressional Democrats think that the new footage will prove January 6th was as bad as they claim it was. Congresswoman Frederica Wilson of Florida wrote on X.
Yeah, I want to know, like, based off of everything that I know, it feels like every single time there's a video that shows what really happened on January 6th and how it was all peaceful, like, there's like a second angle to the video that shows that, like, oh, well, okay, so they weren't just letting them into the Capitol. Oh, so they weren't just, allowing people in and palling around and all of that shit. Oh, they weren't directing them to the, every single video is just like steelman's the idea that it was actually as bad as everyone wants to make it out to be, There we go. Everyone make some things. Tom got boring a year and a half. 1 second. I'm sorry. I've not been paying attention to chat. Banned from Tom's Discord for what?
I was in the Capitol on January 6th, and all these extra hours of footage will show that January 6th was an insurrection. It will reveal thousands of extreme MAGA Republicans entering the...
Also, I feel like this is going to be really bad. Alex Jones is going to walk in there and swear up and down every conspiracy theory he believes in. He's going to say he saw Ray Epps get put $1,000 into Joe Biden. I don't know what that means.
The Capitol illegally and violently in an attempt to overturn the 2020 election, period.
And sure, fine. Let's just see the footage and then let people decide for themselves. I appreciate her opinion that the footage is very bad and shows a lot of misbehavior, and that she wants it released and people can judge for themselves. I very much agree with and appreciate Speaker Johnson's comments that the people ought to decide rather than leaving it up to a handful of government officials and experts to qualify what is on the tapes. I don't love the idea of having to shuffle into a room at the Capitol, visit the Capitol in order to see the footage. Can it just be, can we like Dropbox this stuff or something?
Yeah, I never quite understood what the security concerns that kept being raised were. That we were talking about Tucker Carlson playing some of the tapes. The Democratic Party's pushback was there's security concerns. What is it? That people are going to know the layout of the Capitol is not already public information? Maybe
and people know it now. They went through it.
well, sure. But having tapes versus like somebody's day of knowledge that they retain, I think are two different things. If there are, in fact, secrets that aren't already publicly disclosed, fine. And I think, generally speaking, even if there is this obstacle to overcome, having to come and watch the tapes in person, it is important to make them available most crucially for those who've been charged with crimes relating to J6. I would hope that criminal defendants would have had access to this stuff anyway, because it's potentially exculpatory information. That's the most important thing, whether or not folks who were seemingly allowed to come through, almost led or ushered through by police officers, were charged with breaking and entering, basically, an illegal activity and trespassing, when the police official, the Capitol Police, were indicating that they were allowed to be there. That is a really important issue. What I'm a little confused by, though, is this attempt, I think, to wholesale shift the narrative, just because, as the videos demonstrate, some people who attended the January 6th event were allowed voluntarily into
That is
the Capitol.
just not true.
Doesn't
You're
mean
wrong.
that we all haven't also seen videos of protesters breaking windows. The horrible video of the one protester who was shot by the police as they were trying to break down that window. There were multiple entry points into the Capitol that were absolutely done by force. So there cannot be a whole narrative shift that nobody at the Capitol knew that they were not supposed to be engaging in that behavior.
Yeah, we're not very far apart on this at all. I agree. I was there, as I've said many times on the show. I witnessed people smashing windows, fighting with the police, clearly breaking rules that they knew they couldn't do that. At the same time, most of the people there were engaged in First Amendment protected political activity. You don't have to agree with them, but they had every right to do it. They had every right to be there.
But not all of those
and
people
then we
were
have
charged.
seen from a lot of this interior footage that there are police doing nothing as some of the people walk down the corridors.
What were they supposed to do? There's 5 billion people outside, and there's like 30 police officers. The best that they can do at the time is like sit there and make sure that they don't go into some place that's like highly sensitive. That's the best that they can do. So what is this cope? What is this cope of, oh, well, there was just some people doing their First Amendment. There were some people that were violent. The people that were non-violent. One second. It's true.
Might have had every expectation.
Like, I'm sorry, but like every bit of information that comes out about J6 just like reinforces the narrative that, hey, these guys were being kind of pieces of shit. These guys were kind of, attacking the Capitol. These guys were, like not all people there, obviously, not all of the people there, but, the ones that were charged with shit, they entered the Capitol when they shouldn't have. All the people charged with assault are on video assaulting police officers. Do you think that just like all of the 100,000 people that people claim are there are all being charged? No. It's the people that entered the Capitol or fought with police or orchestrated the thing. If you didn't assault the police, if you didn't, orchestrate the whole plan, guess what? You're probably fine. You're probably fine.
Expectation that
How's it
they
going,
were
Abby?
not violating any particular rule at that point, that they were welcome to be there. Anyone who smashed a window, who defaced property, who wrestled with police officers, knew you were breaking a law and should be held accountable for that. I have no problem with that. I do have a problem, obviously, with these broader kind of this terrorism enhancement charges that a lot of people, including people who weren't even there, some of these Proud Boy leaders got, which are like multiple decades long sentences based on the actions.
Hey, guess what? Shouldn't have conspired to overthrow the government, Proud Boys. There's an easy way to avoid jail time in this situation. And it is to, guess what? Not try to overthrow the government.
Of people in that building, and it is important then to understand what was really happening in that building was a substantial part of it. People who took their First Amendment protest into the building after the smashing had already taken place and did not know that they shouldn't be there. It does start to change the perspective.
I'm sorry. You're like literally they should be kept in some sort of solitary confinement if they genuinely thought that they were allowed to be in the Capitol. If they genuinely thought that, it is a good thing that they were kept from being in the, it's a good thing because it just means that they're not fit to be part of society because they're too fucking retarded. Okay, why is there not enough power now? Do we need more boilers? Yeah, they fucked around and now they found out. Listen, if you didn't do anything bad on January 6th, you're not in jail. You're not fined. They're not jailing you because you're a Trump supporter. They're jailing you because you illegally entered the Capitol, or you fought the cops, or you orchestrated it.
A little bit without, changing the whole, no, they shouldn't have done it. It was a very embarrassing day for our nation, that activity. But the liberal obsession with January 6th,
the obsession.
You hear that it's as bad as 9/11. I mean, that's what they said in the trying to sentence these Proud Boys people. That came out that's what the prosecutor said. This is a terrorist attack like 9/11, and the judge said it's like half a 9/11. And so they got
what one person?
It's like half a 9/11.
No, it's ridiculous. It's insulting, frankly, to 9/11. Yes. Not that I'm sitting here and wanting to die on that particular hill, but it's ridiculous. And it also does point to this fundamental, day one mistake that Democrats made, which was trying to make the Trump's error at that time about the actions of 1/6 instead of the weeks-long effort to actually overturn the election by falsifying.
You fucking retard! What is the fucking indictment about? What is the indictment about? The indictment is the criminal conspiracy. Both of these things are bad. Only one of them is being tried in court. There's no way that these people can actually be this fucking stupid, right?
Documents trying to submit a fake slate of electors and all of those
That's
things.
what the indictment is about.
On January 6th, but were much more substantive, I would say premeditated and purposeful than this crowd, which some parts of it got widely out of control. And you can try to attribute blame to Donald Trump, but that's a much more thorny speech issue than the actions and behavior.
Well, good thing he's not being indicted for trying to incite a riot. He's being indicted for the criminal conspiracy that you said that they should have focused on. But you should know that because this is your fucking job. As a journalist, this is your job to know this. How are you a journalist and you don't know this?
Behaviors that Trump and his co-conspirators were engaged in the weeks prior.
And you can blame him in a moral sense. You can say that it's his fault and I'm not going to vote for president again, or even that the actions taken with the impeachment were proper.
Yeah.
But there's a high bar to clear for speech. And for me, at the end of the day, it was speech. You don't have to agree with what he said, but it was not. I don't think it meets the legal definition of incitement.
Yeah. And the other issue is, remember what happened
good thing he's not
after
being
this
charged
is
with
that immediately
incitement.
all of the Democrats, including the progressive members of the squad who had just spent the past year or so talking about police bad behavior and defunding the police and those kinds of things, immediately voted to raise, to fund the Capitol Police more. The very Capitol Police that
they got invaded.
Maybe were acting in dereliction of their duty and allowing protesters to come through the halls of Congress and completely failed to manage that event that day.
Yeah.
Now, and in some ways, very much to the detriment of people who ended up catching charges and having to serve jail time because the police weren't able to control the crowds and prevent people from coming into the building where some people continued to break the law.
Yes.
It's wild to me. At the same time that progressives were putting all of this pressure on the public was putting all this pressure on progressive electeds to try to focus down on all of the issues that had become so central in the midst of the Bernie movement in the 2020 campaign. They said,
she's
no,
still
we're not
obsessed
going to
with
vote on a
Bernie.
block on any of
Oh
those
my
things,
fucking God.
but we're absolutely
Kill
going to
me.
stand with the Capitol Police. Do they feel like those are the police officers that were keeping them safe as they were feeling so threatened the day on 1/6? Is anyone going to interrogate that?
And there's still, frankly, some unanswered questions about
Does she realize that increasing funding for the Capitol Police would mean that they would have more police there, therefore they would be more safe?
All of the issues that had become so central in the midst of the Bernie movement in the 2020 campaign, they said, no, we're not going to vote on a block on any of those things, but we're absolutely going to stand with the Capitol Police. Do they feel like those are the police officers that were keeping them safe as they were feeling so threatened the day on 1/6? Is anyone going to interrogate that?
And there's still, frankly, some unanswered questions about the extent of, the Capitol Police chief apparently, remember, did an interview with Tucker Carlson right before Fox fired Tucker Carlson, where he was going to say that, yes, there were a number of undercover officers, investigators among the crowd. I'm not Again, I'm not shifting blame to those people necessarily, but we do know,
Necessarily,
as it emerged, for instance, in the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping, and it has emerged a lot of times, law enforcement's knowledge of extremist or militia group activity is pervasive. These groups are very closely monitored by our law enforcement. Law enforcement often works with them, sets them up, hires them, and pays them to go.
I don't think that there was any evidence that the FBI was doing anything improper with the Gretchen Whitmer thing. But again, they don't have, nor do they need evidence. I don't think that's not something that they're interested in. They don't care.
Go forward with criminal plots as happened in the Gretchen Whitmer case. So again, I'm not asserting anything like that necessarily happened here, but it is not. You're not crazy or paranoid for wanting to understand more about.
You are, because you're crazy and paranoid because you're asserting something without proof, and it doesn't matter if anyone shows that there's proof, right? That to the contrary, or asking you for proof and you don't have any. If you have a belief based with zero evidence, zero proof, and you continue to hold on to that despite any evidence to the contrary, that's the definition of being fucking delusional. Having a fixed belief that evidence cannot change. They're definitionally fucking delusional. And you guys are playing into that, even though you know that Donald Trump is not being charged with incitement. You guys know what all of these fucking criminal charges are about. All the criminal charges are about the electors plot, all of the defrauding and all of the lying and scheming behind the scenes to hold on to power, not all of the rest of the shit regarding January 6th.
Law enforcement's awareness of what was happening and what their plan was in the crowd.
Sure, I'm also curious about the narrative building that Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing here, because she also referred to the, I can't remember if it was If Not Now or one of the other Jewish groups that did I think it was Jewish Voice for Peace actually, who did the first event at the Capitol a few weeks ago following October 7th. And she referred to that as a kind of an insurrection. Oh, now the left is doing an insurrection. Right. So which is it? Is it that January 6th was cool, and so also the young Jewish kids who are protesting for peace in Palestine are also copacetic? Or are they all insurrectionist? Or is it only insurrectionist when it's people you don't like? Which is maybe what you could argue the Democrats are doing too. Yeah. But if you're someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is actively kind of defending January 6th protesters, does that really give you the standing to say that the completely peaceful protests that we saw in the rotunda that day by Jewish Voices for Peace was in fact
That's right. And I think she was trying to point to the hypocrisy.
During the Kavanaugh hearings, didn't people get arrested and charged with the exact same things as people in January 6th? They got arrested for trespassing and for trying to obstruct an official, whatever you call it, an official proceeding. Isn't that literally what fucking happened?
Of without action, but I mean, she did say it, so I'm not going to co-sign that. But I think she was trying to say the whole, oh my God, the Capitol was overthrown. This is the darkest day in democracy's history. Crowd is being was a little overly frightened and upset about that.
I think there has to be at least one window broken for you to start calling protesters something other than a peaceful protester.
More Rising right after this.
Did they not break a window, Brianna? I'm sorry. So fucking stupid. Okay, I told you guys I had to leave. I'm actually 10 minutes over, so I'm going to be late to work. I love you guys very much. I'll catch you guys tomorrow.